Tonight we're looking at fatherhood, some of our greatest challenges and biggest blunders.
And are Bible studies becoming illegal here in the United States?
Is church a viable alternative to jail?
Also, T.D. Jakes and damnable heresy. All this coming up on Faith Today.
Welcome into Faith Today. I'm David.
I'm Samuel.
I'm Chase.
I'm Nick.
And praying I don't die from mold poisoning, I'm Chris.
Yeah, that was a bad incident before the show.
Chris, we're praying for you, buddy.
A cooler of tea left from last week, and Chris enjoyed
Do we really
some
want to
of it.
admit that we left
Did
it
you have a
last
picture
week?
we're going to show?
Yeah, you can see the picture now. Chris drank some of what you're seeing on screen. Those lumps, by the way, not ice.
Not ice.
I don't know what
Hey,
that is.
that tea last week was good. So how was it this week, Chris?
The bad thing about it is it actually took me a second to realize that it didn't taste good. And I was like swishing it around in my mouth like, this is an interesting flavor. What is this?
Yeah.
It's mold!
Black plague. Hey,
Hey, we need to fire the Faith Today people that handle refreshments. Who is that?
Yeah.
yeah.
That
We
would-
keep
that would
leaving
be
coffee
us.
pots in
It
here.
would be
and
Ice
tea,
Scraper
and
Sam, and he's no longer with us.
Our studio is becoming a biological hazard.
That's a whole nother story.
That's a problem.
Wait, what
It
are we
is.
doing here today?
Well, this is Faith Today, where we take a look at the world around us through the lens of faith in Jesus. Real people, real issues, a real faith for a real world.
We want to point you to our website, faith2.com, and I understand now you can actually subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, both audio and video, right there on the website. My wife was really excited about that when she found out this week. And
All iPod and iPad fans?
yeah,
Yay.
it works great too. I went and checked it out. So
Hey.
faith2.com.
Yeah, we have literally tens of subscribers
We
so
do.
far,
We-
so I'm really fired up
we
about
have,
that.
We have
You
tens.
finally check?
Oh yeah, I finally checked.
No.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Hey, anybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of an Alabama football
Kind of.
homer.
Kind of.
But I was very surprised
Homer.
this week
Really? I
when
didn't know that.
I was checking out one of our top go-to sites for Jesus Christian stories, which is the Vitamin Z blog, and they had a post with a little bitty picture of a football player, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's A.J. McCarron."
It was like Christmas for you.
yes, I was so pumped.
An Alabama player on a Christian website.
Yeah, so I read
That's
the
a
story.
rarity.
And
Wow.
it actually linked over
Dang.
to the foxsports.com website.
Sam Knowles at faith2.com.
He's a Georgia homer, but
Yeah.
be that as it may, A.J. McCarron and his father are discussed prominently recently on foxsports.com. And it was such a moving story. In our first segment, we're going to talk about fatherhood in general. I thought this would be a good story to kick it off with.
Of course you would, Alabama.
Oh, of course I would, yes. But it was actually during the Penn State game. It talked about some exchanges between AJ and his father. How one of the things his father has done every game AJ's had going back to elementary school is he writes him a letter with very encouraging statements on it. And the Penn State letter basically said, "AJ, I love you. I'm so proud of you no matter whether you win or lose. Nothing will change that." And then it gave him a top 10 list of things he needs to do. Well, his dad's been doing that every week, every game for years now. And what AJ does, a college football quarterback, number 2 team in the nation, every week he plays, he puts it in his sock as a reminder of his dad's love.
That's awesome.
And you know what?
That is
That's what dads should do. Should be encouraging, should be leaders. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, and two, and not to dive too much into the Alabama portion of it, because it hurts.
Is that hard? Is that hard for you?
It hurts a little bit.
understand
It
that.
hurts a little bit. But actually at the Penn State game, I mean, he's battling it out to be the starting quarterback.
Yep.
And this is kind of the first big test, and not sure if he's going to, get the job or not. And so for his dad to say, hey, no matter what, win or lose, no matter what happens, I am proud of you. That's and for him to take that, put in his sock, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that shows
that makes a difference.
it
I am
does.
sure that was a major factor for AJ. I mean, I would assume. I mean, because when you have, there is just something about, when your dad is just right there with you. I mean, how many counseling sessions, how many people with issues always kind of go back to approval of their father?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that that's just a common thread in people. when you're doing counseling sessions and stuff like that, there's a father approval issue, and so for him to just head that off at the pass so strongly, that's powerful.
Yeah, one of the things I really appreciated about the story is after the game, AJ comes over to his dad in the stands. They hug, and as AJ's running off with the team, his dad hollers after him, "I love you."
Yeah.
And you know, dads of the generation above us, they don't say that much.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I believe that's one of the things we as men should do more. Our kids should know, not by guessing, not by intimation, not by our gifts, but by our words and our actions, that we love them dearly, and they should never question that.
You know, this one thing that I've heard people say that. You know, I never heard my dad say, I love you, or, you know, I've talked to people who've said that, and I guess that's one of the things for me growing up. That was just something that, I mean, it was in our home. You know, my dad consistently told me, "Hey, I love you." He would leave me notes. He would say that all the time. I don't ever remember. I mean, I'd leave the room, you know, "I love you," and so I do that with my kids. I mean, when I bet, you know, and I don't think about it, but I bet, you know, every hour I say it, you know, 5 or 6 times. I mean, they're going to run off to go play. "Hey, I love you," and it just kind of comes naturally. But I know it's because that's what my dad did.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's, you know, my son now, I'll tell him, I say, "Hey, you're my best buddy. I love you," and he'll go, "Okay." You know, and he runs off, and I'm like, "Okay, I feel the warm and fuzzy, son." But I know that, it's being instilled in him the way it was me, and yeah, that's great. I never have to question that about my dad.
Look, my family was a dysfunctional poster, you know, family.
I was saying that too. I didn't mean that. No, your family.
Right, it sure was.
Yeah, it really was. No, mine too.
But no, it really was. But there was one thing. It was and it really was for my mom and my dad both. That was one thing that was always there. Is this? I just knew that they loved me no matter what. I mean, and it you know, so it really, it's a powerful force when the child feels that security of the love of the parent, then that's a powerful force.
There's something about, you know, the whole, you know, men don't say, you know, the I guess that kind of attitude of, well, men just don't say that. You know, we're not affectionate people. We show it in other ways.
Yeah.
People need to hear it. Kids need to hear that, and that's just one aspect of fatherhood that's important.
Well, yeah, you know, I thought it'd be a good idea talking about fatherhood, being as how we're all fathers. We all have a lot of kids. Some of us, some start at 20 and down to 3 or 4. Well, we don't. I'm just kidding. We have a lot of kids, though.
Yeah, a lot of kids.
So if we have a lot of kids, we're gonna have a lot of fatherhood stories. Some funny, some poignant, I suppose. Some rotating around poop, some not.
You know, just for informational sake, I mean, we have 16 amongst the 4 of us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Hello.
That's pretty wild. That's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of
And
kids.
we're so young to have so many kids like that.
Early
Okay.
30s.
What's a story you have, Jason?
Well, the story I had is actually not that funny. I was trying to come up with a.
We're bound to have some funny stories among us.
Well,
I don't have one.
Not mine.
One of the top stories I have actually concerns my dad, and it concerns the issue of respect. When I was in high school, I outgrew my dad, which is always kind of a tense time. So my dad's he's about 5'9", 5'10", and I was about 6'2" or so, 6'1½", something like that. And I thought I was big stuff. When I turned 16, I was taller than my dad. And my dad always.
There's no way this ends well.
No, it didn't. Well, actually, it does end well. This is a good story. But the middle of it is a little rough.
Okay.
My dad always told me he loved me, and he always showed it. But he demanded that I respect him. And when I got bigger than him, I didn't do that as much. And I remember one day he came to wake me up for school, and I wouldn't get out of bed. And 10 minutes later, he came back to wake me up again. I wouldn't get out of bed. 10 minutes later, finally, he demanded I get out of bed right then, and he stood in the door waiting for me. All right, well, this is what I did. As I got out of bed, and I glared him down the whole time. I didn't have a shirt on or anything like that. I thought I was buff and tough. I bowed my chest out as big as I could, and I walked by him in the door frame.
Hard for David to imagine, apparently.
Bumped him with my chest, glared
Really?
down
You
at
chest
him.
bumped your dad?
I really did. Not hard, just enough to say, I am bigger
Not
than
good.
you. Glared down at him like I could snap you in two like that. I mean, I was so arrogant.
Chase,
I got about
Chase.
7 feet down the hall, and there was this rumble behind me like a train, and just a low growl. And he
Daddy
said,
Express.
He said, "Ain't no son of mine gonna look at me like that." And before I could turn around and react, he tackles me full in the hall.
Oh, wow.
Hard, lays me out. And I said, and this is again, this arrogant as all get out. I said, "Come on, old man." And we started getting after it. My mom came up, started screaming and all that. We jostled for a while. Okay, then it ends up, I go to school that day. Well, 3 or 4 hours later, my dad comes to my school, checks me out of class, and says, "Son, I just want you to know, I love you. I'm sorry for what happened today. You were disrespecting me, but I don't want you ever to doubt that I love you." And he was just in tears saying that. So, okay, like I said, not a funny story, but I mean, my dad, I always think of respect and love, and I think, that's a big deal for dads.
Absolutely.
It is a big deal. Man, that's a... Okay, I'm just because I know your dad, and I'm picturing that.
He's a fiery man, my dad.
But I'm picturing...
He'd probably do that today if I tried to pull that.
That's just...
All right. Well, I'll give you one. Maybe a little bit more on the humorous side. And I've got younger kids.
Does it involve your daughter scooting down steps?
Yeah. We got
That's a good
some. I've got younger kids, so some of my stories may, sometimes have the poop factor. But now here's the deal for me. One of the areas that I pray about a lot is just patience, because I love my kids, and so I want all of our times together to be good. But there are times, it's just, I've got 4 of them, so sometimes things get hectic, and they always get hectic when my wife leaves the house. I tell her, it is a well-oiled machine until she leaves, and then it's just like the whole thing just grinds to a halt.
Well, she has it rigged to blow up.
Apparently, look, I have told her that. I have told her that. I said, you have this thing that when you hit the stop sign at the bottom of the hill, it just all goes kaput. Yeah. And so, a lot of times during the week, there'll be a night she'll have a Bible study or something that she's going to. And so this was a couple weeks ago. We had one of those nights, and I was determined it was going to be a good night. I was like, I'm going to go to work tomorrow going, good night last night. So I'm upstairs. I'm wrestling with my son on the bed. We're having a wrestling match, and my oldest daughter comes up, and she has my youngest daughter with her, and she says, "Hey, Daddy, I think Addie has diarrhea." Okay, we can say
those
on
are
the internet,
great
right?
words to hear.
That's great words, which I said, what makes you think that? And she says, well, something's leaking out and it smells really bad. And so I said, okay, well, let me check. And so I get a towel, lay her down. Wow. Sure enough, it is. Now, I don't normally do baths at the house, but this was a bath. This was just like, there is no way to fix this.
Stick them in the tub.
So I get her in the tub, and so I'm in the bathroom. I'm bathing her, and then from out in the hallway, as I'm bathing the baby, I hear Josie say, "Hey, Daddy, I think you need to come out here and check this. I think Addie Beth sat in the carpet." And so I've got her there, and I go outside, and sure enough, right there at the top of the stairs, she had sat down, and there was a nice-sized discolored spot sitting there in the carpet.
That's good.
Now,
did it look like the tea?
It looked a lot like the tea. Now, as I'm looking and going, how am I going to fix this? I noticed we have stairs, and we've always taught our kids not to walk downstairs, but to scoot downstairs to avoid any unforeseen. Well, I noticed the puddle extends, and apparently Addie had scooted down the stairs, and so like 5 or 6 steps down is this trail of the substance.
That's nice.
And so I'm in my mind thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? And I'm thinking, this is it. This is what happens. So I go back in the bathroom, and I'm trying to, how am I going to clean that spot? And I'm trying to get Addie out of the tub. I'm thinking maybe we just put hardwood down. We just need to do away with carpet. And so I've got all this in my mind. Do I have anything to clean? And then I hear Josie from the hallway say, "Will, don't sit there." And I go out, and my son is sitting in the substance there. And so now I have to get him the diarrhea stains.
I just don't think he wants to remember it. I don't think it's that.
I texted my wife, and I said, "Hey, Addie Beth had any stomach issues today that I need to know about?" And she texted me back, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you." And I was like, "Hey, information I need. Information I need before you leave the house."
Nice.
And so I think I did pretty good, though. I mean, being striving for patience. I think I did all right because I never got overly upset. I mean, I feel like I did okay, so God was helping me in that situation.
I remember
because that was a bad night. It was like fires everywhere.
I remember the next day in carpool, him telling that story. I'm like, wow, man, that's a bummer. My kids were in bed by 7:45. The look he gave me, it may have been the look your dad gave me.
Hey, straight up, if I can at all avoid it, I'm not the one in the household that deals with bodily functions.
I'm surprised at that.
We're making Chris
want to
have the
domestic
kids.
guy, Sam.
Yeah, hey, dude.
Look,
I know that shocks y'all, but
all right, look.
I'm telling
500 diapers changed, 500 diapers changed, 500 diapers changed. 2, maybe.
Oh, come on. I've changed my share of diapers.
How many?
4?
Look,
more than
have
10?
y'all really counted how many y'all have changed? I have 4 kids.
Hey, look, don't ask my wife
7.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't ask her.
Hey, we got a call now from Allison McConnell wanting to weigh in on
wanting to talk about, hey, look, she thought it was hilarious. That was funny.
I bet she enjoyed it.
And I bet all the women at Bible study did too.
They did. Hey, look, she was at women's Bible study, and they were having a great time.
Yeah,
My skin is crawling a little bit. How did you get it up off the carpet? Because I go to your house every now and then, and
Hey, we had nothing.
They had a dog at the time.
We had nothing except soap and water, and
that didn't get poop up.
It doesn't get the smell out.
Soap and water is the best.
So that happened,
Straight up.
a while ago. What have you done since then?
Hey, look, I put soap on it, and I told Allison where it was, and you might want to fix that at some point. So,
hey, honestly,
don't eat on my stairs.
It's very
Put a
heroic.
paper towel over it.
Yeah, just throw something over it. That might have been what I did. I would have.
But it was down the whole
over
stairs.
I
You
know.
get some of that stuff when the
thrown a rug down the
dog
stairs.
messes
and said,
on the carpet.
Hey, that's
powder.
That's scary.
Oh man, I'm telling you,
Wow.
I threw a diaper, I had a tremendously wet diaper one time I had changed from one of the kids when they were real small. And I mean, just one that was just like, how in the world?
Yeah, some of them are just amazing.
And so I was like,
you ever had one explode?
No, that's the story. I told Allison, I was at the top of the stairs. I said, hey, check this out. And I threw it. And she moved out of the way, and that thing exploded all over the wall, all over the stairs. And the look she gave me from the bottom of the stairs, I wanted to go anywhere. I was like,
dude. Hey, check this out, and you
I threw it, and she dodged it, and it exploded
That's
everywhere.
Awesome.
That was
man.
There's nothing like watching Seth when he gets out of the pool, and we've left him in one of his regular diapers and not a pull-up. He's like,
who would have known?
he looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That's what I was thinking.
Throw that thing against the wall, and who
I'm
would have known
good.
what it
Really?
does? I'm just telling you, and the stuff in there, it's like some kind of crystallized.
It's kind of weird stuff.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Especially when it's all over your wall and floor and.
I bet that's.
Which wall was that?
Yeah, I was about to say we need some markers at David. Yeah,
Draw a map.
Y'all want to come over Friday
That's a
night?
whole new version.
Quickly becoming a danger zone.
Yes.
Biohazard zone.
Well, I've got a newborn. This is a quick story, but Wednesday night we were down here. I was holding our newborn Phoebe, and all of a sudden she barfs big on me. Not just a little, but really big. All right, so I'm
costume change,
dripping in it. So I go up to the house. I live next to the church building, so that's nice. Go up to the house. The kids go up with me, and finally Janet and Phoebe come. I change my shirt. I'm holding her again. She within 10 minutes apart, she just barfs all over the brand new shirt.
That's
and
awesome.
so
Clean shirts will do it.
clean
According to
shirts,
Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah, and that's
Have
what
you
it
ever
was.
heard that
2
bit
clean
from
shirts.
That's funny.
Never heard that bit.
Brings it out of him.
Hey, fatherhood's good.
Fatherhood
Yeah,
is good. Hey, I tell you what. Speaking of fatherhood, there's a movie coming out. Actually, it's out right now, is it not?
Out, yeah.
And you're the only one of us that's seen it. But I hear it's incredible. Tell us about Courageous.
Yeah, Courageous. It's made the same, and I forget the church's name. I think they're in Georgia, and they
Albany, Georgia.
Sherwood. Is it
Sherwood, and they did. You guys help me out, but it was
Facing the Giants.
Facing the Giants.
Flywheel.
Their last one was Fireproof.
Yeah.
And
Was it Flywheel before that?
That was the
Flywheel
first.
might have been the
first
one of the first.
Yeah.
One of the first.
I think it's only 3.
this is, I think the night we left, and I have a friend of mine who got some preview passes, so we went back in the spring. And I know I texted a few guys when we were leaving, and I was just like, I have just seen one of the most incredible movies ever. And I really mean that. I think one of the problems of the human condition is that we get we get blinded. The Bible talks about that. We can't see clearly, and it's like we're looking through a glass darkly, and so we don't have a clear view all the time of what's happening. And I think with dads, that happens. It's that our vision gets clouded. Whether it's priorities or what we're trying to focus on, maybe it's work or whatever it is, and so the day-to-day, the most critical things that we're supposed to be about dads and as husbands, I think our vision just gets cloudy,
It's
this,
so easy to get busy and,
it
do
is.
important things and turn your heart away from the ultimate things.
You think, and you're focused on, even with work, I mean, you're doing good things, and it's, hey, I'm helping my family, but it's you're missing the most important things. To me, Courageous is one of these moments to where you can go to this movie, and the gift that you get is clarity. What they have done with this movie in taking dads on this journey, that's what I've just really walked away from that night, with this clear, just unbelievable, wow, what am I not doing? What am I missing? If you're, even as men, you go, okay, well, I've seen their movies. They're not that. I mean, I think the acting was really good. I mean, you can tell they're getting better. You can tell they've got a little bit more money for the technical aspects.
Yeah.
The story is really good, but I'm telling you guys, just the journey they take you on, and the things that they pinpoint, issues about being a dad, what we miss just day to day. And you can watch these scenes at the beginning of this, and you can see these dads and what they're missing, and you can go, that's me. I mean, that's me. I'm every day. And then from where they go to just hammer home the importance and the things that we miss. Go see it, go see it, go see it. Take a friend, take a family member. Even if, somebody, we were talking about earlier, somebody who's not a dad yet, maybe just got married, don't have kids, or I was talking about even taking some of the youth guys and talking to them about one day being dads. I don't cry a lot. I don't cry at movies ever. But this one,
Me either.
No, well, except The Notebook. But this one,
Gallons.
This one impacted me in a way that and I can't wait for you guys to go. I want you to go and hear your take on it. But I'm telling you, this movie impacted me. Take somebody. It is an incredible story, and gives some clarity about what's so important for dads.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Well, good exhortation. When we come back, we're going to talk about a church and state issue. And whether church is better than jail. Hang on.
Welcome back into Faith Today. Now, we always want to send you to our website, faith2.com, but this week we're also wanting to let you know that this podcast is now on iTunes. You can subscribe through your iTunes account, download it, audio and video.
Join all your friends.
Join all your
friends.
friends.
Can you do that?
All 15, 20, 30,
1,000
or so of them.
He's on painkillers.
Yes, he is. Okay.
How's your tooth?
It's hurting. I have an abscessed tooth. I'm playing injured today and on prescription painkillers, and
playing through
I'm not responsible for what I say the next couple of segments.
Oh, now
that's
a likely story. But
now I've got a blank check.
Yeah, now you got a blank check to do it and say what you want to. But now this story that we're about to get into is really interesting. Once again, we've got national news covering a somewhat local story. How about
Sweet Home Alabama?
From near the
Sweet
Sweet Home
again.
Alabama.
Yeah.
How about if you're convicted in one certain Alabama town, you've got the option to go to church instead of jail.
Yeah, I love that. Jesus or jail. That's the tagline there. So it's Bay Minette, Alabama. Any of you guys been to Bay Minette?
I have, sir.
Yeah, sure enough.
You passed through it on the way to the beach.
Have I?
Well, do you go to Gulf Shores?
No.
Okay, well then, okay. Well, Bay Minette's
That's sad.
That is
yeah,
sad.
it is. Gulf
Go to
Shores is
Pensacola.
awesome.
Pensacola's
nice. I like
It is, too.
Pensacola.
Well, all right, so it's Bay Minette, Alabama, and so basically it's criminals who have been convicted of a nonviolent crime have an opportunity to choose. They can go to do jail time, or they can agree to go to church for a year. And so what would happen is, and I think this is for along the lines of some first-time offenders, but you get convicted of something, and so you can make the choice. I'll go to church for a year. Once a week, you have to check in with a pastor, a local church, and the police department. And so once you've completed a year of going to church and the pastor's verified that you've been there week after week, then you're free. And so instead of going to jail, you can go to church. Now, the police chief there says one thing we're trying to do is put people on the right path. Secondly, we're saving money. So instead of, I think they said $75 a day for inmates. And so we don't have to do the $75 a day. So we're saving money, and we're also putting people on the right path. We got a lot of questions that come up with the story, including, is this going to work? And secondly, is this as the ACLU?
I was about to say, they're going to get involved.
Yeah, and Chase can talk more about that because I think he's a member. But the ACLU here in Alabama, says, hey, separation church and state, we're crossing the lines because government is mandating someone, mandating religion, mandating someone to go to church.
Yeah. Okay. Let me say that. I'll say this kind of to start out. I don't have a strong opinion on this, but I do have a strong opinion on the issue of separation of church and state. It is being thrown around right now in our society in much the same way as the word hate is, as applied to the homosexual marriage debate. In other words, anybody that disagrees with the current entrenched media elite on the issue of homosexual marriage is guilty of hatred. They disagree because they hate homosexuals. Anytime any sort of religion is thrown about, it is a separation of church and state issue. I don't know that this violates the Establishment Clause. I'm not sure it's a great idea. I can understand some of the practicalities of it. The fact of the matter is, church doesn't save anybody. Right. Yeah. Jesus does. I mean, so you look to the church.
You understand? They didn't say you have to go to a Christian church. I mean,
exactly, and that's the issue. It's voluntary. It doesn't say which church it is, but I do think the story says there's not
like 56 of them.
There's not a mosque in town or a Jewish temple or something like
look,
that.
The story is presenting it as in this is you choose to go to a Christian church. Now, I don't know in practicality if it actually says that, but the story is presenting it because it says there's no other religious church in the area. So, no other religion represented. So they are really presenting it as you must attend a Christian church. I don't, nowhere in the story does it actually say if that's lined up. But basically it seems like, hey, there's no other religion religious
present in this town.
So it's going to be a Christian church that you go to.
Yeah.
Now,
well, maybe.
I mean, I'm like, the Establishment Clause. I actually looked this up earlier today because I wasn't, the separation of church and state. We use that terminology. That's not in the Constitution. That phrase is not in the Constitution. The Establishment Clause: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that's the idea, is that the government cannot establish any religion, and the government cannot prohibit you from practicing religion. So they shouldn't force you into it. They should not decide what religion that you're a part of, and they should give you the opportunity to practice the religion as well. And so that's the idea. I think it was Thomas Jefferson that actually coined the phrase separation of church and state.
Jefferson coined the phrase in a letter to the Danbury Baptists of Virginia, who were being persecuted by the Congregationalists of that state, the Congregationalists were state-sponsored religion. We have had state-sponsored religion in the United States of America in the past. It's a bad idea. And that state had Congregationalism, and the Congregationalists actually literally persecuted the Baptists. In fact, some of the Baptist preachers were brought out and horsewhipped for preaching by the Congregationalists, not Protestant versus Catholic. I mean, Protestant versus Protestant.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
it's a big problem.
Look, I'm not, and I don't get offended normally on things like this anyway. So I'm not overly offended by this or by something they've done to go, okay, wait, we've crossed a line. Now, I'll ask a question in a moment that might change how I feel about it if things were different. But, one thing, the government will not force someone into. The ACLU said, hey, you can't force someone into religious activity or participating. From a Christian standpoint, they're not forcing anyone to be a Christian.
There's no forcing there. Well, the ACLU's right. You can't force, but this is not forcing.
But they're asking someone to go to a church, but just attending a service is not forcing someone to a religion. You're not a Christian because you go to a church. So we're not forcing someone into a religion. Now, what we are doing is we're saying you have an option.
Yeah.
In this town, you can go to jail or you can go to church. I just don't know that this is a great idea. If you were to lay this in front of me and go, hey, sign off on this. Is this a good idea? I'm going to say no.
I would agree with that. As far as good ideas go, I think I have a problem with it. As far as does it violate the Constitution? And this is the thing we got to understand. This is maybe the one part of this issue I'm passionate about. The Constitution does not mandate a secular government. Period. It mandates a lack of favoritism in the government. Our founders, Jefferson included, probably not a Christian, But our founders did not envision a secular government. They envisioned a government that did not favor one religion or one denomination over the other. And I think that's sort of apropos to the conversation.
All right. So now here's the thought that I'll take it and kind of flip it around for a moment and say let's think of it this way. Let's take this out of Alabama, and let's go to another state somewhere else.
West Virginia.
Oh well, okay. Well, wherever.
North
West
Dakota.
Virginia, Montana. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
Wherever. We're out of
How about
Alabama.
Salt Lake City?
We're out of
I think I know
Alabama.
where you're going.
We're out of Alabama. We're in a okay, Salt Lake City. We're in a community now that is represented by, because look, I'll say this. I mean, I will say, hey, I don't know that they would have done this if there was more options in the area.
Right.
I think they want people to go to a Christian church.
I think you're right.
And so that's what we're trying to do. And they're saying, oh well, we don't have any other choices in the area, so it has to be a Christian church. So let's go to a community where we have mosque, synagogues, Mormon temple, Christian churches, and then so let's say a judge comes along and says, okay, you can go to jail, or you can go to
a religious service.
the mosque. Yeah. Well, now I'm just going to go. They pick one. Okay. They pick one and they go. You can go to a mosque. You can go to this Muslim or Islamic community center, or you can go to jail. That's where now are you offended? Now is it offensive because the state has chosen one religion and it wasn't the Christian religion? And I think that's a good question for us to at least ask.
I don't think any of us think it's a good idea.
I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not offended by it because they're asking them to go to a Christian church. Would I be offended by it if there was a judge giving people the option to go to jail or go to an Islamic temple or whatever it is? Okay, I might be. Now I'm still going to step back and go, they got the choice. They have a choice. They can make the choice. But it becomes a little bit more offensive to me when it's outside of, and so I can see that added to go, I just don't know that this is a great idea, because hey, it may be at some point someone's trying to force something else.
Well, there's also like the option to go into the military. I know, that's always been an option there with certain offenses. Instead of going to jail, you can go into the military. And
really?
I'm almost certain that's. I don't know personally.
That's kind of scary.
Well,
we got criminals here. Let's train them to kill people.
Let's give them guns.
Good plan.
Well, there's community service.
Yeah, it's a community service.
Church service with your church.
Well,
no, remember, I didn't say I thought it was a good idea. I just said I don't know that the Constitution bars it.
Look, I'll guarantee you this. I imagine, an 8-week boot camp would be better than 16 months or 18 months in jail for that person to be rehabilitated. Because jail
boot camp. Pretty tough.
Yeah, boot camp stuff. That's going to get them. That's going to wake them up. I would assume. Now I haven't been through one, but based on what you hear and what you know, maybe that's an option. But I don't have a problem with giving options. Well, even if there's mosque and I just don't. It's just not a big deal.
Well, if they're nonviolent offenders, they're not. It's not a huge.
Well, and that's the thing. To me, if they were giving you the option, to me, if maybe you can go to any religious service that you choose, any religious place of worship you choose, or you can go to jail. I would go, okay, maybe this is, but the whole thing is, the purpose of the jail is to try to rehabilitate people back into society. That's kind of the idea behind it.
But see, jail today doesn't do that.
Okay, maybe
that's
it
what I think.
But look, going to a church for a year, okay. Oh, I stole something, whatever, Grand Theft Auto, and all I got to do is just go to a 1-hour church service for a year. I can do that. That doesn't. Look, that doesn't. To me, I'm not even sure this is going to help the person.
I don't know.
Well, maybe not helpful, but I will tell you this. The recidivism rates as you look at jail is not good. We're just not doing a good job of this the whole way
That's what
through.
I was just thinking. The
It's a mess.
recidivism rates are just crazy in this country.
That's a word.
Well, he's taking pills.
Yeah, I am taking pills. I think that is a word, though.
Okay.
Hey, I tell you what is helpful.
The option of church or jail.
Recidivism.
I'll take church over jail for right now. Here's what is helpful. I'm trying to segue us.
Segue.
Yeah, freebies. Freebies are helpful.
You're giving away a Segway for free?
I am for free. Oh, I'd love a Segway, man. I'd have a blast with that.
Dude, you'd be in the hospital in a week.
I have had a injury-riddled year. I will say that much.
That's
Yeah, giving you a week's
But
probably.
Not
generous.
speaking of that, speaking
Golly.
of good things, elbow him. We're talking about freebies. We didn't do any freebies last week, so we got 3 this week to give you.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted by
The violence over there.
Tweedledee. No, this is a really cool resource online.
I'm
And
Tweedledee.
the URL will be in the show notes, if not pasted along the bottom of the screen here. But you have an opportunity to read the Dead Sea Scrolls digitally. They've got them all scanned in, and it's very cool because you can actually pull them up, you can skim through them,
Yeah.
and then you can highlight over a particular section of it, and it actually pulls up our translation that we know and love. And so
One
it's
of the
very
greatest finds ever.
Cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
cool.
I think it's pretty cool. Also, for you, I guess you Bible geeks out there, if you like the Dead Sea Scrolls, you're going to like this. I'm a fan of Logos. Logos, the Bible program. Logos 4. It's a great program. They are giving away the Perseus collections, which is basically over 1,500 free books.
Huh?
Now, you have to go, we'll have a link for you. You have to go to their site and sign up for it. But anyway, 1,500 free books. That's awesome.
I've been trying to read 3 this year, and I haven't got through them.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, if you're not into reading, well, you can at least watch these videos or listen to the audios from the Desiring God Conference.
Yeah.
Desiring God Conference 2011 National Conference. It's John Piper. I'm a big fan of his. And some of these sessions are got some really powerful hitters as well. Louis Giglio, David Platt, to name a couple.
Platt fan.
So yeah, I tell you that's
Stetzer.
great. And they well, yeah, they put these up on site. We've got a link to them right there on our website and in here in the video for free, all the free video and audio from this conference.
Good
That's
stuff.
definitely worth checking out.
All right, when we come back, we're going to do some quick hitters. There was a popular segment last week from the masses, and so we're going to try it again this week. And that sound effect was.
That was totally made up. That wasn't
You did
digital
it-
at all.
you
Can
did it
believe
last week.
I can't help it
Let's
when
do it
you
again.
say
was
quick
digital.
hitters.
Hey, let's do it again.
It was digital.
Okay.
Quick hitters.
See? Isn't that amazing?
When we come back
Like the human beatbox.
on Faith Today.
Wow.
All right, we're back. I actually don't even know if we mentioned our website last segment for the freebies of the week. So I want to tell you that, faith2.com. You want to go there, get the freebies, sign up for our iTunes podcast feed. We're going to do quick hitters right now. What that is we got 5 minutes and no more than 5 minutes to talk about some hot stories going
I have
around.
the timer ready.
David has the timer, so we can't be too long-winded.
That's right.
Let's go.
So we're gonna go. We got 4 stories, 5 minutes apiece. We are going to start with a little possible heresy. Mr. Chase Thompson. Hit it.
Okay.
Not that you're heresy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
all right, go ahead.
Elephant Room is a series of videos that James McDonald is doing. The first one came out this year, is very well received, had David Platt on it, Mark Driscoll, a couple other guys. Well, the new Elephant Room is going to be recorded in January 2012. It has made waves because T.D. Jakes has been invited to be one of the panelists.
Is that Touchdown Jakes? Or?
I don't actually know what TD stands for, do you?
I do
Okay,
not.
I'm sorry.
Touchdown Works. Touchdown Jakes is going to be one of the panelists.
Oh,
Here's the problem. T.D. Jakes has long been criticized for his views on the Trinity, specifically, and we're going to go a little technical here, but it's for a point, specifically that he's a modalist, which is to say that
like
he
motorcycles.
believes a certain viewpoint of the Trinity that says...
Not motorist.
He has a certain viewpoint of the Trinity held by
Wow.
Oneness Pentecostals and some other groups, that God is not 3 separate persons, but one person that exists in 3 forms. Now, if that sounds technical to you, it is.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
One entity or one person existing in 3 forms.
As opposed to
to
persons.
3 persons.
existing in
One God, 3 persons. The Orthodox formulation of the Trinity is one God, 3 persons. Modalism says three forms of one God.
one person.
Going back to Deuteronomy, Lord your God, the Lord is one God. Obviously it's to some,
Wow.
and I would think to most people watching
brain
us right
fried yet?
now, that's a fine distinction. But here's the thing. Most people say, a lot of people on the blogosphere this week have said, it is impossible to be a Christian and to be a modalist.
Wow,
In fact,
that's
Is this a lot of people or is this one guy?
no, it's several people. Norm Macdonald, other people are raising the issue.
Oh,
Why
look,
do you
T.D.
have
Jakes
T.D.
has taken a
Jakes?
lot of flack for that belief for a long time.
I'm going to read you a quote from Tim Challies. This might fire you up if you have a problem with this. I like Tim. I like him a lot, but I don't agree with this quote. He says, "To say it as plainly as I know how to, modalism is a damnable heresy. If you believe it in place of the biblical understanding of the Trinity, you are not a Christian, period."
damnable heresy.
Who was that guy who wrote he wrote a couple of different books? He Hit the Scene Exploded. You used it with your youth group. Oh man,
Rick Warren, 40 Days of Purpose?
No, not Rick Warren. It was a guy,
Joel
but he was a
Osteen,
oneness. He
Your Best
wound
Life?
up being a oneness guy, or, and then all of a sudden his books just disappeared.
Oh,
But it was a very fiery book. And then he did
one
a
guy I
follow-up
know
book.
that's a oneness guy other than T.D. Jakes, possibly, and some are saying Jakes is not, but William Branham, who was a very famous healing
yeah,
revival
yeah.
guy from the 50s, was a oneness Pentecostal guy.
That is strong language to me to say that
There's no way you can be a Christian.
There's no way you can be a Christian and hold this view or believe this. I mean, look, I don't hold the view, but I mean, I don't know that to me. I mean, what does the Bible point us to in what you must believe to be saved, to have a I was going to say to have a relationship with Christ, but to be born again. I mean, it points to your faith and faith in Jesus. For the salvation from your sins and forgiveness of your sins, and to a belief that not just an intellectual belief, but a belief that causes you to follow Him with your heart. I mean, that's what the Bible really draws the line in the sand when it comes to salvation or not being saved. There's
well, let me throw a little curve here. What about if they say, well, Jesus did not exist until He was born in Bethlehem?
Well, hey, I think that's a damnable heresy too.
Well,
And
that
there
is
are those
part of
that say
modalism.
yeah, he's
That is a
taking it. He's
tenet of
taking it
modalism.
out. too.
that's not.
If you are a
T.D.
modalist.
Jakes would not.
He probably wouldn't adhere to that,
Yes.
maybe, but they're saying
That is a type of understanding.
But
of
I
modalism.
don't understand the concept because I don't know how it plays out. I don't know if that's an end game of it that well, He didn't exist until, and you're denying a lot of Scripture. I'm simply saying, I'm gonna be, to me, just to go, okay, you view the Trinity this way, I view God this way. Okay, well, you're not saved, but because you don't hold the. I'm just saying, being cautious there.
Look, you have got to be very cautious there. You need to always. You cannot say someone is unsaved based on anything other than their rejection of Christ as the Messiah.
And that's the
Bottom
key.
line.
And I think if you do say that, I'm afraid you're adding to the gospel. So in other words, you have to believe in Jesus and you have to have a right view of the Trinity. Now there are theologians out there that they might have heard you say earlier, and you said it's a technicality. There are theologians and people out there that cringe when they hear that. I don't know that I would say it's a technicality, but I think your average person in church would view this discussion as this way. Their mind is on Jesus, not on exactly how the Trinity formulates itself out.
Okay, and that's my thing. We can't. I agree. We can't create God that we want to worship.
Yeah.
We worship God, but I mean, still
It's
part
not an
of that.
unimportant issue.
It's not an unimportant issue, but should it be considered? Hey, you're not a Christian. I don't know. All right, let's move on to the next one because we ran out of time there. So I'm going to take us to San Juan Capistrano in Orange County, California.
Or Capistrano.
I think that's just one place, but that was really long. A California couple is being fined for holding a Bible study in their home, and if they continue to hold Bible studies in their home, they're going to continue to be fined more and more money. So far, they owe the community $300, and that rate will grow, according to city officials, as they continue to have a Bible study in their home. Now, that's a big headline, and we can get some mileage out of the headline.
Look, if you say it like that,
Those atheists will crush them with our religious fervor.
but hold on, let's get a little more detail.
All right, here's the story. According to the city, the violation is that they have a regular assembly in their home of more than 50 people, and that is against the zoning ordinance. You can't have a regular assembly in your home of more than 50 people. And so that's what they're being fined for. And yes, they will continue being fined if they continue to do this because it's against the zoning in the community. Now, the couple, which is Charles and Stephanie Fromm, they have gotten help of a religious nonprofit group called the Pacific Justice Institute. They've taken up their case. Basically, the PJI it says, look, this is a mask for the city officials. They don't have tolerance for the Bible study, and they have pulled up this zoning ordinance that's not being enforced anywhere else, and they're applying it to the family to keep them from having a Bible study in their home, and that it's prejudice against their religious beliefs. And that's the attitude they're taking, and they're saying they'll go all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. They said they don't have any parking problems. The city was looking for a reason to get them to stop having a Bible study.
So you're saying you've got more than 50 people meeting weekly in your home, and you're not creating parking issues in your neighborhood?
According to their attorney.
All right, just let's take David's house. David lives in a regular old neighborhood.
Yeah.
When we've gone over to his house, it was 10 cars or so. That kind of creates a bottleneck
Look,
on the street.
I have youth over at my house.
I can't imagine 50.
Every Tuesday night, I have 20 or so students at my house, and we do have some parking issues there. So
no doubt. See, and that's what I want to know. If that is true, and they don't have any parking issues, they're not creating any kind of difficulty within the neighborhood. Parking in neighbors' yards and having to block certain areas of the street where you bottleneck it to one lane. If you don't have any of those kinds of issues, then you might have something there. But, I mean, if you're meeting weekly and you have that kind of crowd, I would honestly ask, if I knew the Fromms, I would say, hey, can y'all not split this group? I mean, look, split this group and don't create issues, because you're not being punished for righteousness' sake if that's the issue.
Yeah.
You're being punished for being obnoxious and not wanting to split your group.
Whether you're a group of 50 friends who want to watch the game every Saturday at your church group, it sounds like this city's going to jump on you anyway.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then
look, if they can point to another group who are meeting for any other reason that aren't getting jumped on, then it's
then you got a valid
That's
argument.
a great question.
Yeah,
are they the only people in this city that have a regular 50 plus at their house? I mean, look at that.
But it may be. I mean, they may be.
I don't know.
So.
Now there was a story from, this is probably a year or two ago, and it was also in California, that there was some neighbors that had complained about a family holding a Bible study. Now they said it was because of parking, and this kind of thing came up then, but the city said, hey, as long as you don't park all the cars in the neighborhood, you can have whatever you want. It's just the parking that's the problem. So I don't know. I think it's kind of there's a part of it that goes, hey, it looks like you got a group that's suing to allow someone to have a Bible study at their home. Normally, when you get an organization involved and they're suing, it's for maybe the opposite of the spectrum. So
I'd like to know more detail before I gave a verdict. But I would hope that the group would say, hey, we're not going to cause trouble over this. We can split and have 25 meet at this house and 25 meet at
good
another
gospel community group, what, about
12, 15?
12, 15.
Yeah.
So
the more groups you have, the more leaders you have, the more leaders you have, the more people you have engaged in ministry.
AgapePenson.com for more of those messages where we talk about gospel community online. All right, so we're going to move on to the next segment. We were made up a little time there. We're going to go to a very serious story. I think, Nick, you've got this one, an Iranian pastor being sentenced to death.
Well, yeah, and what's interesting about it, you've got a gentleman, the Foreign Secretary William Hague from London, who is saying it is deplorable that this pastor is sentenced to death. And here's why. It's apparently he lives in Iran, and under Sharia law, they're trying to execute him for being a pastor. Apparently, he converted from Islam at the age of 19. He's now in his 30s, pastor of a small evangelical community, and they're trying to kill him. And I guess the sentence they weren't going to pursue the death penalty at some point, and now they have reinstated that. And I guess basically Mr. Hague is saying, look, y'all have committed to having not this stringent of a penalty, not have the death penalty, these kinds of things, and it's a huge controversy.
It's
right
Pastor Youssef. I don't remember the.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to try the name.
Yeah, I don't remember. We've been praying for him, and it's Pastor Youssef. And now my understanding is last week they came out and said hey, still going to kill him, but wait a minute, it's not because of apostasy. It's not because of that he's turned his back on Islam or he won't convert to Islam. It's because of rape.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, where did that? I mean, that's
it's the whole planting. I mean, it's the whole planting of evidence or trying to get somebody, for a crime they didn't commit. And
well, I tell you this: ever since a couple of years after 9/11, the media has been on the bandwagon that Islam is a peaceful religion. The extremists are the one that do terrorism. The 99% of them are peaceful. Mm-hmm. Look, I'll just be honest with you. I don't know enough Islamic people to know if that's true. But I will say this. If it is true, those 99% of Islamic people ought to be protesting hard to get this undone because it makes them look like a bunch of barbarians.
Yeah.
I mean, just practically speaking. Spiritually speaking, it's on the one hand it's a tragedy. On the other hand, I mean, here's a guy leading a network of house churches in a place that will kill you for converting. That's all.
Now, look, this is straight. Amazing. This is straight from Scripture. I mean, this guy he's been taken to court numerous times, and what he has to do in order to avoid this death sentence is recant his faith in Christ and convert to Islam. And and he is,
and he won't do it
on numerous occasions given that opportunity, and he has refused.
Well, it's easy for me to say in my comfy little spot here in America, but at the same time, it's almost like if the Iranian whatever the Sharia law people, whatever they're going to do, if they realized really what this could do for the gospel there. Because if you look out throughout church history, when martyrdom comes into play in an area, the church explodes.
Church explodes.
And I think of Fox's Book of Martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the DC Talk version of what Jesus Freak and Volume 1 and Volume 2, where just the wonderful and awesome testimonies of those who have given their life for the gospel and how Jesus looks down upon that kind of sacrifice and blesses the area.
Yeah, the seed of the church is watered by the blood of the martyrs.
It's wonderful, wonderful thing. And so am I excited about this man's death? Absolutely not. Do I hope he gets out of this? Absolutely. But at the same time, look, it has happened from the beginning, and it's going to continue to happen until Christ returns. We will be called to give our lives for the gospel, and I hope he continues to stand strong regardless of the outcome.
May we be found faithful, forever called to do that.
Amen.
My daughter, we were prayer walking the other night, went for a walk, and we were praying, and she brought this up to me, and she had been to community, they're involved in an organization called Community Bible Study, and so I know her teacher brought it up to her that day. And probably, I assume, maybe affected her prayer. I'm not sure, but she brought it up. And she said, "Hey, can we want to pray for this pastor?" I said, "Yeah, his name's Pastor Youssef." And so she said, "Well, I want to pray for him." And I said, "Okay, go ahead." And she said, she said, "Jesus, please help him, no matter what he faces, to not back down." Amen. That was her prayer, and that was not what I was expecting. And,
that's strong.
It was strong. All right, we were right at 5 minutes there. We're going to move to the last segment, which you have.
All right,
a little reverse offering. What's that about?
Yeah, the final hit. We've got a New Jersey church here trying to reverse the money flow in the collection plate area. Now, look, this is not, I'm going to go ahead and say this right up front, it's not an every Sunday thing. This is a one Sunday deal where it's a church. They're called Liquid Church.
Liquid Church.
That could be a segment in and of itself, but the pastor there is Tim Lucas.
Interesting church names.
Yes, it is quite an interesting church name. I'd love to know. I'm going to actually look up and find, where they came up with that name.
What is that about?
Yeah. Where'd you come up with Liquid Church? Tim Lucas is the pastor there, and basically what they do is they meet in a couple of different campuses, middle school, 2 hotels, and so they have kind of branched out there.
No overhead, I guess.
Yeah, they don't obviously pay an overhead for a building. I'm sure they have to rent these facilities each week, but they take in about $30,000 a week, is what he says. And what they're going to do is, or what they did this one Sunday, is they took $30,000 and basically after the offering was taken up, they started passing out these buckets with envelopes in them. and each envelope had either a $10, $20, or $50 bill in it. And so each congregant actually took an envelope out
So
of
they
the
actually
offering
did
plate.
take offering that day.
From what I gathered, it was like they took an offering, and then immediately after the offering, they handed the offering bucket back out with the money.
So
And they
the
gave, what they were saying is, we normally take in about $30,000 a week, so what we're going to do is give back to the congregation a total of $30,000, and they passed it out, and where you could draw, an envelope from the bucket. And their whole purpose of this was to say, okay, do we really believe what's on the currency? In God we trust. And so we want to get our people involved and realize that, look, we're not just up here trying to take money from you. We want you to see what God can do with the money that you give each week, and how you can be personally affected by it, how you can be personally involved with it. So their whole idea behind it was to say, hey, look, take this money and do something for the kingdom. Now, they're not forcing them. You obviously could just go, hey, I've got lunch today, or something like that. But they're obviously pushing and promoting, hey, take this money that we normally take from you. Take this money and go do something for the kingdom. One example was a lady who makes her living by making these nice cakes like the Cake Boss does, selling them for $400 or $500. She's going to take the money, buy some ingredients, and make this big nice cake for when they go feed the homeless, one of their homeless ministries. So,
so good idea or bad idea?
I've got to take. I think that part of it, investing in things like that, it's good. I like that. But twice, as you've talked about that story, and the story itself sets up something that I just despise, and that is a division between the clergy and the laity. Yeah. And we take from you normally, we're going to give back to you. Listen, we are the body of Christ.
Yeah.
The leaders of the church are not this exalted fief. It's just not this exalted group that is sponsored by the taxes of the people. It's almost like serfdom. I hate that. The leaders of the church are pastors, but they're also part of the body of Christ. There is not a separation. If the giving goes toward boosting a tremendous building, boosting the leaders and all that, I think that's something not envisioned in the New Testament. So that's the problem I have with it. It seems to
well, basically, kind of the idea is, hey, look,
strong.
What we're going to do is we're going to give this back to you this week, and you go do kingdom work with it, because normally we keep it and kingdom work's not done with it.
That's
a little bit
we normally line our pockets with it.
And they didn't say that.
Here, you guys enjoy some money this
That
week.
is kind of the idea. I'll say two things real quick. I got a friend of mine who pastors a church in California. He was preaching a series on generosity, and so kind of as an illustration for the 4 weeks that he was talking about us being generous people, they put an extra $500 of 20s in the offering plate as it was going around, and he said, hey, if you've got money to give, you give it. If you need some money, if you need a 20, go ahead and take it out. I mean, that's this is the church's, this is the money that I guess we've come in. I say it's church's money, but we're giving it. It's there. If you need it for this afternoon, you take it. I thought that was kind of interesting. It was not quite the same here, but a little bit different. Just trying to show generosity. My question, I guess, my only thing is, hey, we're called to be stewards of what we're bringing in. I mean, this is God's money, and as leaders here, we got to steward that well. Are we? Is this good stewardship? That's my question. That's what I would wrestle with. Is it good stewardship? Hopefully, we're doing it every week, and we don't have to. We don't have to.
To me,
that's a little bit.
Look, I'm not cracking it, but the word gimmick just keeps. It's a gimmick. Now, sometimes that's okay, because if you're trying to get a point across and whatever, sometimes you may think, hey, this gimmick will help bring a point home to our people. And that, so I'm not going to say all gimmicks are bad, but it just feels a little gimmicky to me. Dave Brooks, who's the executive pastor, says a lot of people are really suffering financially these days and looking for the government for a way out. We feel God can provide help for people. That's a good thing. Now, he says, we encourage people to work from the standpoint of generosity, also a good thing. Many people say, in God we trust. If you turn that around, God trusts you. We give money that God entrusted to us. So
I got to buzz you out.
Okay.
So, I actually gave you more time. So next week on Quick Hit,
that's not fair, just because he sits next to you.
Well, he was in the middle of
favoritism.
His
I don't like
sins,
that
so
any
I
more
wasn't
than
sure.
clergy.
Yeah, this is honestly, this is my first week with the quick hitter, so I get a little leeway.
You were here last week.
You
for
were
Quick
here
Hitters.
last week.
I was not
You
here.
just didn't say a lot.
Yeah, I was not here. I'm not gonna be here next week either. So if
That's
they put
gonna
another
be
picture
fun.
up, that's awesome.
Can't wait to see what kind of new picture we have.
Yeah.
New,
Oh, what kind of picture?
New
New
picture.
picture.
A new picture.
NEW.
That's a
Thank
tough
you.
word to say right sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Hey, we won't viewers.
Not really.
It will be a new picture.
Okay. Amen.
All right.
All right.
Well, we better cut it before we say anything. We're at
Yeah, we were hesitating there. Thanks for watching this week's edition of Faith Today. Have a good one.